Shalom Israel, Shalom Israel. I'm Officer of 50s Abadja of the I.S.U.P.K under Commandant General YAHANNA. And today I have with me Officer of 50 Darash of the I.S.U.P.K under Commandant General YAHANNA. And today we're going to talk about the Quebec City mosque shooter and how his sentence was reduced from, not his sentence, but his parole date. Instead of his parole eligibility was reduced from 40 years to 25 years. Right. So, Officer Darash, do you have that article?
One moment.
Okay, Officer Darash is going to get the screen share for the article. So in Canada, they have a rule where basically, like, it doesn't matter if you commit 1 or 10 murders. Like, they're gonna either turn around and give them 25 to life if they fight it, 25 to life if they plead to it, regardless, right? And then that basically means at 25 years they're eligible for parole. Right. So the Quebec shooter, he ran into a mosque and he basically in 2017 did some mass murder, and he got his lawyer to fight for him to get to reduce his parole eligibility. So Officer Darash, whenever you have the article, Babu Kasha.
Khan, you want me to play this video?
Khan, you can play the video for Khan, Musa and Crest.
The Quebec City mosque shooter will now be able to ask for parole after 25 years. In a unanimous decision, the Quebec Court of Appeal says that consecutive life sentences for murder is unconstitutional. Angela McKenzie on that.
In its decision, the Quebec Court of Appeal called Alexandre Bissonnette's 40-year parole ineligibility cruel and unusual punishment. A spokesperson for the Quebec Islamic Cultural Centre is dismayed by the ruling.
Nous aurions aimé que la décision soit une décision définitive pour éviter que d'autres gestes dramatiques arrivent dans la société.
We're thinking not only of ourselves, but of all Quebec society, he says. It's been nearly 4 years since Alexandre Bissonnette opened fire on a mosque in Quebec City during evening prayers. He pleaded guilty to killing 6 men and wounding several others, and was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole for 40 years. The Crown originally asked for life without parole for 150 years, expressing discomfort with consecutive sentences. The judge chose concurrent life sentences, 25 years plus an extra 15-year term. In a lengthy 42-page unanimous decision, the Court of Appeal reduced Bissonnette's life sentence to 25 years without parole and invalidated sections of the criminal code that allowed judges to hand out consecutive life sentences for murder, a provision that came to be under the Harper government in 2011.
It's a very important decision because it deals with probably the most important crime in the criminal code, being first-degree murder.
The decision will likely make its way to the Supreme Court. If it's upheld, it could affect a number of murderers currently serving consecutive sentences throughout Canada.
If the Supreme Court were to rule that the legislation allowing such sentences is unconstitutional, I would be more than certain that they would all return to court for some type of sentence review to bring their sentences down to what would be the constitutional limit of 25 years of parole ineligibility.
In a statement, Bissonnette's lawyers said they're satisfied with the decision. The Crown, however, said it's going to take time to analyze the ruling with Quebec's Attorney General and will wait to comment until Friday. Angela McKenzie, CTV News.
Right, so basically they turned around and they basically said that his parole eligibility right now is 25 years. Right. So instead of, he was convicted for 6 murders and saying you serve life for 1 murder, then life for the second murder and continue, which would be, I think it's consecutive. They basically said for 6 murders, you just serve that 1 life sentence. And for all 6 murders, you get to go for parole 1 time. Right. So, Salakia, is the article much different from what we just saw in the news clip?
No, it gives the same information, but the article gives out a little bit more typically, but we can cover a little bit of it. It's up to you.
Okay, Khan, we can cover some of this article, right? So we know that first, this is an Edomite right here, and this Edomite, like he went to a bunch of Edomites to get some mercy, right? And we know that these Edomites typically don't give black people, don't give Hispanic people, don't give Native American people, the children of Israel, they don't give us mercy in these courts, right? So yeah, so it's just interesting that for 6 murders he was able to get hit, he was able to reduce his 40-year eligibility for parole to 25 years. Whenever you want to read some of that article, you can.
All right. So says the Quebec City, the man who murdered 6 people in the Quebec City mosque in 2017 will be eligible to apply for parole in 25 years rather than 40. The province's highest court ruled Thursday as it declared the section of the criminal code allowing consecutive life sentences unconstitutional.
Right. So stop right there for a second. So his 40-year eligibility for parole is unconstitutional. But 6 people were murdered, and there's 7 others who were wounded, and we don't know the extent of their wounds, but their life is not going to be the same ever. Like once you go through some type of trauma like that, your life is totally changed. And was that unconstitutional? Right? Like Salakia, if you may, do you got your sword on you?
Come on.
If you could pull up Genesis 4:12, right? Our oppressor Esau, he's a fugitive, and like he's a criminal. He's always been a criminal. He's always going to be a criminal, right? And their courts are for criminals, ran by criminals, right?
Right.
Whenever you got that scripture,
Con, this is Genesis chapter 4, verse 12. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth.
Right. So Esau, he's been a fugitive and a vagabond. They came over here only to steal and to kill. That's how this country was founded, by murder. They committed crimes, and that's how they got this power. That's how they're running the world right now, by just committing crimes. And you could just see all in Esau's spirit that's what they like to do. Whenever you got where'd you leave off in that article?
That was it on the precept. I'm right here, Alexandre Bissonnette. So this is a French guy. I looked up he's French. His parents are both, he's an Edomite. His parents are Edomites.
Khan.
All right. So this guy, he's your typical Edomite here. Alexandre Bissonnette, 30, was sentenced in February 2019 to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 40 years. That sentence has been reduced to 25 years in Thursday's Quebec Court of Appeal decision, which took issue with the 2011 amendment to the criminal code that allowed life sentences to be served one after another rather than concurrently, as was previously the case. The 3-judge panel wrote that while the decision is set, parole eligibility at 100 or more years may give some people a sense of satisfaction. It is grossly disappropriate because it exceeds the person's expected lifespan.
Salakia, hold up, one second. So it's inappropriate because it exceeds the person's expected lifespan, right? But 6 people have no life. 6 people don't get to see their children grow up. 6 people don't get to hug their grandkids, right?
And Salakia, see, this is why the law is so important. And let me just let any heathen out there who's watching just know, what I'm saying, when it's our time to rule, if there's a crime committed in some heathen land, which we're going to be in control of, just if you kill one person, you got to pay with your life. You know, if we find out this was, you know, a premeditated murder, you know what I'm saying? You took somebody's life. Well, the law says, you know, it's an eye for an eye. So if you kill, you're going to be put to death. There's going to be none of this. Oh, we gave him, you know, life, but then we decided to reduce it because, you know, that's just what's the word they use? Grossly disproportionate.
Inappropriate.
Grossly disproportionate because it exceeds the person's lifespan. There's going to be none of that. You're going to be put to death if you kill somebody. So, yeah.
Right. And like, so here's the next thing that like this is to show you for all the Jakes, all the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans who are in the mosque, run out of that mosque and run to the I.S.U.P.K. The mosque is not going to save you. The mosque is not where you're gonna find morality, and the mosque is not where the like Islam is not your culture, right? So I could only imagine how many Jakes were actually in that mosque when that happened, right? And our oppressor Esau, he's a cunning hunter. This is what like he lives for that hunt. Like this man, what was his name? Andrea Bisonetti, he lived for hunting. Like he walked into that mosque knowing that he was gonna kill somebody, right? And he murdered. He has a bloodthirst, and he's been a killer from the beginning, right? Can you get me John 8:44 so we can show our people that Esau has been a killer from the beginning? These devils.
God.
Throughout Most High in Christ. Right? So this is what they do. They have this bloodthirst. Like you've been seeing, especially if you're up there in age, you've been seeing these mass murders for years. Like I remember as a child, but not witnessing, but hearing about the Columbine shooting where Esau, some young Edomites ran into I think it was a college or a high school and shot that to bits. Right? Come on, whenever you got it.
This is John chapter 8 and verse 44. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do.
Right? So this is when Christ is checking the Pharisees, and he's telling the Pharisees that ye are of your father the devil. Well, their father, it wasn't the father that slept with their mom and married their mom. It was their father. It was the Romans, because they were going after the Romans. They wanted to be like the Romans. So he's telling them that you are like your father the devil. And the Romans today are the Edomites. Like they're still in power. They're still in power. They're still here today, and they still have that bloodthirst and that lust for murder. Was that all of the article? Was that all of the precept?
He was a murderer from the beginning.
Right? So he was a murderer from the beginning. Like running into a mosque and shooting it up is what that man wanted to do, because that was in his blood from the beginning. Can I get that one more time, Ak?
From the top?
Yeah, come on, from the top.
Come on, this is John 8 and 44. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth.
Right? So you see it. These Edomites were murderers from the beginning. It's nothing new for them to run up into a place where there's people not causing violence and just living their life and shoot it up. Like he likes to kill. Like it doesn't matter if it's his own people, our people, or the heathens. Predominantly, they love to kill us. They got score points and all that for killing us. Right? We're gonna bring that out sooner or later. Salaki, was there anything else in the article?
Khan, I'm gonna read. I'll read like probably up to about here.
Khan, throughout Most High in Christ.
It contemplates a possibility that will never be able to come to fruition. The decision read, "This is why the provision is absurd and constitutes an attack on human dignity." Like, first of all, where was the human dignity when you it just like Salaki, what's the word to use? Like when you just without a second thought murdered 6 people, you know, where was the human dignity there, right?
Right.
B. Sanetti pleaded guilty in March 2018 to 6 counts of first-degree murder and 6 of attempted murder. His murder victims were Mama Do Tano Berry, 42, Abdelkrim Hussein, 41, Khalid Belkemi, 60, Abu Baker, Thabti, 44, and Azadine Sufyan, 57, and Ibrahima Berry, 39. In addition to the men killed, 5 others were struck by bullets. So, Salaki, if I may, we just seen what did we not just read in the article? The brothers who committed that crime and the stray bullet hit the 12-year-old. They said
Right.
no chance of parole. Is that not correct?
Khan.
Well,
Yeah,
hold
that's
on. So this guy, this Edomite, murders 6 people. 6 people he shot, and he pleaded guilty for 6 attempted murders, along with 6 first-degree murders, and he gets parole in what, 25 years?
right.
But the brothers who killed, not to justify what they did at all, but just to show you, like we just covered, this like a couple months back, the unbalanced judgment of, the law giving a higher sentencing to Black, Hispanics, natives than to their own people. And these people who did the shooting at Jane and Finch, it said they have no chance of parole.
Right.
So this is just unbelievable. Like the whole world needs to see this.
Well, now their lawyers could use this case if this case is upheld, their lawyers could use this as case law to get them parole, right?
Well, most I pray that someone shed some light on this. You know what I mean? Because this is just unbelievable.
Right. Well, Esau is inclined to show Esau mercy in their courts. Like they're definitely not going to show Jake mercy in their courts, but Esau will show themselves mercy in their courts. But Esau, he, as we said, he's a cunning hunter, and mass murder is nothing to him. Like that's no sweat to him, right? So I'm gonna show you like what Esau's been doing now is nothing. It's nothing that is literally changed from what Esau was doing back then, right? He's been mass murdering since he could come out the womb. He comes out a devil. Right?
Right.
So Salakia Baba Kasha, can you bring me to 1 Samuel 21:7? Right? We're gonna talk about Doeg, who was an Edomite. He was a mass murderer, and this is Esau right here in the Bible doing the same thing, killing, and just more killing.
21:7.
Khan 21:7.
1 Samuel 21:7.
Khan.
All right, this is 1 Samuel 21:7. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg, an Edomite, the chiefest of the herdmen that belonged to Saul.
Right. So this is an Edomite who belonged to Saul. He was a servant that belonged to Saul, right? And we're gonna show you that this Edomite is no different from Alexandre, right? Salakia, can you jump over to the same book 22:16, the next chapter over?
God.
Right. So at this point, this is when David was running from Saul, right? And David went to the priest and got showbread, and the priest gave him Goliath his sword, right? So we're gonna go into that, and we're gonna find out what this Edomite did. Right. So whenever you got that,
This is 1 Samuel chapter 22 and verse 16. And the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou and all thy father's house.
Right? Salakia. So Ahimelech was the priest who gave David the showbread and he fed David and he basically gave David the sword. Baba Kashai, can you continue out?
Verse 17. And the king said unto the footmen that stood about him.
Right? So he said Salakia, he said to his soldiers, right? He was giving his soldiers an order right here.
And the king said unto the footmen that stood about, Turn and slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priests of the Lord.
Right? So the servants of the king, they knew better. They did not want to slay the men of the Lord, right? Because the priests don't belong to men. The priests belong to the Lord. Just like the priests and the brothers in the I.S.U.P.K, we belong to the Lord. We don't belong to men.
Right. Verse Salakia. Verse 18. And the king said to Doeg, Turn thou and fall upon the priests. And
right? So Salakia. So right here, Doeg the Edomite. The king turned to Doeg the Edomite, right? Basically, the king turned to Ali Bisanati, right? And told him to fall upon the priests, to kill these priests. And let's find out what he did.
And Doeg the Edomite turned, and he fell upon the priests, and slew on that day 75 persons that did wear a linen ephod.
Right, so we're gonna stop right there. So Doeg, the mass murderer, he just like Alexandre, the mass murderer, he fell on the priest and murdered 45 priests that day. Right, and we see this all right now, that these Edomites, they have a bloodlust, and they're mass murderers from the beginning. Right, so we're gonna see what happens if the court decides to uphold this reduction in eligibility for parole from 40 years to 25 years. Right, like we're gonna find out like if Esau has righteous judgment or not. But in the I.S.U.P.K, we already know Esau doesn't have righteous judgment, or they wouldn't even have considered moving the parole from 40 years to 25 years.
Right.
Right. So we're gonna wrap it up right there. We are the I.S.U.P.K under Commanding General YAHANNA. Tune in. What do we got next? On tomorrow night at 7 p.m. we got the Lashuan Kadash class. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, come learn your language. Learn the language they beat up out of you.
Right.
All right. Shalom, Most High in Christ.